Waiting on you to catch up to me because it takes too long. There we go. All right. Welcome to Raw Dogs Radio. I am your host, Masante Bay. Okay. Uh, Before we get started, a couple of things I want to talk about here on Black Monday. Can we laugh at the fact that the Raiders continue to implode? That they thought it was a smart move to fire Reggie McKenzie, the guy who built them to be a playoff team with Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, Derek Carr. Okay. They thought it was a good move to fire him and hire Mike Mayock, a guy who does nothing but football analysis. That's almost like firing John Dorsey and hiring me. I wouldn't recommend it, especially when it's not something that I've been doing for pretty much my whole life. Whatever. It's not like I'm an insider. So, good luck with the Raiders and their continued implosion. Um, Also, in Atlanta, they fired all of their assistant coaches when really they should have fired their head coach because he's the problem. If you want to talk about bringing in an innovative head coach that actually knows what he's doing, considering how this is the trend now as far as finding an innovative offensive head coach, and you have a few of them out there, this is what you do. You keep the knucklehead defensive coordinator, all right, who is pretty much riding the coattails of the Seahawks defensive players and Richard Sherman and Bennett and the other guys that were there. You're riding those guys' coattails, just like the guy who was coaching the Colts when Andrew Luck was a rookie, uh, Chuck Pagano. You were the Ravens defensive coordinator when there was Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and Haloti Nada. You're riding off of their coattails to get a job. Oh my God. So many assistant coaches who have become head coaches don't deserve to be head coaches. But at any rate, it is what it is. As far as in Cincinnati, with the stepping down of Marvin Lewis, let's be honest, we already knew what was going on last year because it was pretty much expected that Hugh Jackson, on his way to an 0-16 record, was going to be fired here in Cleveland, which he should have been. He should have been. He was supposed to have been fired at the end of the season. Marvin Lewis, was supposed to have hired him and then stepped away, and they were supposed to promote Hugh Jackson to be the head coach of the Bengals. Instead, that's not what happened. The Browns retained Hugh Jackson. Marvin Lewis signed a 2-year contract, quote unquote. And then, as soon as they fired Hugh Jackson, he did a 1-week tour of saying how it wasn't his fault. He was the best coach around and all of this stuff, and he knew what was best. And at the end of that little media circus car wash where all of the broadcasters were kissing his backside because Hugh Jackson is good at that. He's good at manipulating people and making people like him and making people think that he's actually worth something as a head coach. They had throw pity parties for him. That although the Browns are they finished the season 5-3 without him. Somehow it's everybody's fault except Hugh Jackson's. Nobody questions, well, outside of Cleveland, nobody questions Hugh Jackson. Like, maybe he wasn't the problem after all. But I digress. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about what happened during the offseason before the draft. Now, I just happened to find my paper from last year's draft. And on the free agent list, I had a bunch of quarterbacks, the running backs, wide receivers, middle linebackers, cornerbacks, and free safeties, because those were the team needs. The only person that they picked on the list was Carlos Hyde, which of course they wound up trading away for a fifth round pick to Jacksonville. And that's fine. That's fine. It's fine. Because I mean, I'm not the GM. These are just people that I thought would be available. Now, of course, with the free safety, we know that they traded Deshaun Kaiser for Demarius Randall, which turned out to be a way we stole him. We stole Demarius Randall because had he been healthy the whole season, he would have been in the Pro Bowl. Meanwhile, Deshaun Kaiser has been so destroyed by Hugh Jackson that in I would say in 4 quarters of football, he hasn't put up any points. Khalil Mack single-handedly destroyed him in the little quarter that he did play against the Bears with the strip sack, the interception return for a fumble, and the sack on third down that destroyed him. It was over. As far as quarterback, of course, instead of them signing, these are free agents that I thought they were going to go after: Kirk Cousins, Case Keenum, and EJ Manuel. Instead, what they got, they traded for Tyrod Taylor, and of course, we saw how that worked out. People in Buffalo were trying to warn us, and we were like, "It's okay. We just want a quarterback that won't turn over the ball." But what they failed to tell us was that he was actually scared to throw the damn ball. If the guy wasn't completely wide open, Tyrod Taylor was not going to throw the football. He sucked at it. Oh, he sucked at it. Plus, he couldn't throw deep. When he did throw deep, outside of the one throw that he threw down in New Orleans, if he threw in an outdoor stadium, his balls fell short. Phrasing. Because we should have been ahead of the Jets. At any rate, at wide receiver, the free agents were, of course, Pryor, Watkins, Decker, and of course, rumored Crabtree. But instead, we picked up Rashad Perriman, which turned out to be a breath of fresh air because he was supposed to be a #1 wide receiver in Baltimore. It didn't work out for him because Flacco is garbage. So the Browns picked him up off the scrap heap. Boom. There you go. Of course, I always said that the Browns needed a new middle linebacker. Now, I found a newfound respect for Joe Schobert, but do understand that I feel that he's not athletic enough. He's too slow and he sucks in pass coverage. And we saw that happen to yesterday more than anything, but continually throughout the season. Doesn't matter that he was second in the team in tackles. He was bad. He was great at putting guys in the right position, so to speak, but when it came to making plays, he just couldn't do it. So I thought that they were going to pick up either Kevin Minter, Todd Davis, and it was rumored that they might trade for Bruce Irvin. Okay. Instead, they picked up Kendricks, and we all know what happened with Michael Kendricks with the insider trading thing. So he got cut and wound up going to Seattle and had a nice little season there. At cornerback, I thought they would either get Trumaine Johnson, David Amerson, or Malcolm Butler. And of course, we wound up getting Mitchell and let's see, what are these guys' names here? Uh, oops, Mitchell, TJ Carey, and who was the other guy? Let's see. TJ Carey, EJ Gaines, and Terrence Mitchell. That's who we wound up picking up. And TJ Carey, that was the one that ticked me off the most because he was just so full of penalties. But everybody else did okay. And of course, I already talked about the free safety. You know, I thought they would get Nate Allen or Darius Butler, but we made the trade. Now with the draft picks at quarterback, as you can see here, all right. I figured Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, out of Louisville, and Baker Mayfield, Mason Rudolph. Of course, Baker Mayfield really should have been at the top of my list, but I was just going by who was listed. But I like it. I like Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, but I like Mayfield more because he showed more gumption, and of course, phew, thank God that they saw it too. At running back, they picked Nick Chubb. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but they picked Nick Chubb, which was fantastic. Um, I knew we didn't have a shot at Saquon Barkley, or Sonny Michelle, so I wasn't really worried about that. I wanted them to pick a wide receiver, either Calvin Ridley, Cortland Sutton, Equimarius St. Brown. Let's see, Alden Tate, Christian Kirk, or Sammy Cobbs Jr., but they didn't pick up any of those. But Ridley and Sutton are doing pretty good. So it's nothing I can say about that. Uh, they didn't grab any of the middle linebackers I like. At cornerback, it was either Joshua Jackson. They got Denzel Ward out of Ohio State. Of course, you know that. Mike Hutchins, Jamie Alexander, it doesn't matter. And at safety, they didn't pick anybody at safety, which is fine because none of these safeties panned out. I mean, what happened with Minka Fitzpatrick? Anybody know? I'll leave it alone. So, at any rate, Mayfield, Chubb, and Denzel Ward, of course, all played so well that they wound up going to the Pro Bowl as alternates. Well, except for Ward. Ward is not an alternate. So, with that said, when we started the 2018 season, now I'm just going to do a quick 16 game review, one liners. All right, because we don't have time to go through the whole season. So, here we go. Week one, the Steelers should have started Mayfield, should have had a new kicker. I said when they cut Cody Parkey that was a mistake. Shouldn't have gave it to Zane Gonzalez. He was an unproven rookie last year. Why would you do that? Cody Parkey, after the Miami game, settled down and was in a groove. The guy, he was a booming kicker. Yep, we lost that game because of a kick. The Saints, again, lost that game because of a kicker. That's when they finally cut Cody Parkey. It took a whole 18 games to realize that this kid sucked. Of course, the Jets game was Baker Mayfield's unveiling, and we were supposedly off to the races if Hugh Jackson could get out of the way, which of course he couldn't. So, of course, the Raiders, we know that the refs stole that game. Not going to go into it. The Ravens, that was a gritty win in Cleveland. We pulled it out. Great win, even though we should have won that game. But of course, the kicker. Chargers couldn't stop the run, and the offensive was garbage. The Bucks, bad offensive game plan, and of course, Peppers fumbling the ball in overtime. The Steelers, bad offensive game plan, and boom, that was the end of that. And then, of course, here we go with the Chiefs. It's the Chiefs. You can't stop them. You couldn't stop. Show me somebody who could stop the Chiefs, and I'll show you that they're not us, especially at that time because they were in their stride in the middle of the season. Okay, the Falcons. All right. By the time we got to the Falcons, it was pure domination, and the team just coasted in the fourth quarter. Browns won the game easily. It was a complete win. The Bengals. That was after a bye. Pure domination. The team coasted in the second half and still won the game. The Texans, that was a tale of two halves. Bad first half game plan, but in the second half, they came out. They just didn't have enough weapons because wide receiver was not, it wasn't what we thought it was. Because what it was, ever since the whole Josh Gordon situation where they traded Josh Gordon, they kept trying to make Callaway fulfill not the number one role, but the number two role. And he just isn't ready for it. He just isn't ready for it. So trying to force feed him the ball. Of course, the long pass he caught it for a touchdown, and but the penalty, and then the second, it went right back to him, and he fumbled the ball, and that was pretty much the end of it. But Mayfield never did give up, which let us know right off the bat that we had a fighter on our hands. Okay, the Panthers, that was a dogfight that was eventually won by the defense, Cam Newton with the bum shoulder. The Broncos, that's a dogfight, of course, again, won by the defense, Peppers with the sack on fourth down. The Bengals, a slow burn and a game that was never in doubt. We knew we were going to win that game. It was just a matter of just grinding it out with them. And of course, the Ravens, that was a very resilient loss, which, of course, kicker. Kicker, which I'll get into later on in this video. Now, let's talk about the coaches because I just did the season. Let's talk about the coaches. Now, Bruce Arians, of course, he is fighting real hard to be the Browns head coach, but he's very old. He's over 60. Okay, he's had health concerns. I don't think I would turn the job over to him because you need somebody, in all honesty, if you ask me, if you're going to have an older coach, like a coach over the age of 45, if you're going to get a coach over that age, you have to have somebody that's a stern father figure. And the one thing that I've always said is that your head coach must be a leader amongst men. He must be respected by other men. They have to look at him and understand that this guy is not a joke. He's not playing with you. Okay. And that he's somebody that you can trust because he's direct, he's honest with you. Sorry, my eyes are killing me. He's somebody that you can trust. He's not going to lead you astray or lie to you. I don't think Bruce Arians is that guy. You've got Jack Del Rio, who I would say he's an average coach. I mean, of course, he got the Raiders to the playoffs the one year, and then the next year they had some issues. But he's more of a meathead type of guy. So I don't think that will work out with like the Baker Mayfield types that's on this team. I'm not even going to mention Hugh Jackson. And do I dare talk about Josh McPiece of Crapo? That would be Josh McDaniels. Now, I'm going to talk about this. People keep bringing up Josh McDaniels' name as if he's a somebody. Okay. Now, I'm all about giving people second chances because he was trying to be Bill Belichick when he went to Denver and he wound up being like Mangini. Okay. Where he had no idea how to evaluate talent. You're talking about an idiot who picked Tim Tebow with his number one pick when you could have got him in free agency. Oh my God. And he pretty much traded Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall for a song and dance to Chicago. Well, not both to Chicago, but Cutler went to Chicago. Marshall went to Miami, who eventually wound up in Chicago. But you pretty much trade them for a song and dance. He had 6 wins right off the bat, and then after that, everything went to crap. And it was over. And what happened with the situation in Indianapolis? Boom. If I was an owner, there's no way in hell I would ever want to even think about interviewing that guy again because he broke trust. You had assistant coaches who uprooted their families and moved to freaking Indianapolis thinking that they're going to start jobs and work for him and work with Andrew Luck, only for him to pull out of the deal at the last second. You had a deal. All you had to do was just sign the papers. Nope. Sorry. I'll be done with you. You stay in New England. You succeed Bill Belichick with that garbage team because that team is falling apart. It's on its last leg. It's over after this year. Watch. John DeFilippo, I am not hiring a coach, especially an assistant coach, that get fired in the middle of the season. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs offensive coordinator. Let's understand something here. Eric Bieniemy is the Chiefs offensive coordinator in name only. He is basically Andy Reid's coffee fetcher. You understand what I'm saying? He is Andy Reid's coffee fetcher. You may be learning under Andy Reid, but until you show me that you can do it on another team without Andy Reid, I'm not hiring you. You can forget it. Pete Carmichael Jr., the Saints offensive coordinator. That's another coffee fetcher. That's Sean Payton down there calling those offensive plays. Are you kidding me? I'm not even going to play with that. Matt LaFleur, Titans offensive coordinator. Have you seen the Titans offense? I will never forget how everybody was all up in arms when the Titans when they drafted crap. Let's see, hold on. Let me take a look at their whole little freaking record here because this is ridiculous. Okay, Tennessee Titans. When they drafted Marcus Mariota, everybody thought that the Titans were going to be a playoff team and Mariota, they were going to have this wide open offense and they just couldn't wait. They just couldn't wait. Oh, they just swore to God that the Tennessee Titans with Marcus Mariota was going to be the greatest team out there and challenging the Patriots for the title of the AFC's best team and everything. And this dude can't even stay healthy. He can't even play a whole 16 games. And he looks so subpar, so subpar. They use his running ability more than his arm than anything. He's a coach killer. He is literally a coach killer. I am not gonna lie. Marcus Mariota is a coach killer. So no, I wouldn't be dealing with Matt LaFleur. Uh, Zach Taylor, the Rams quarterbacks coach. Yeah, that's McVay. That's all McVay. Brian Flores, the Patriots linebackers coach. Yeah, that's more so the players that the Patriots have more so than coaching. Plus, they coach situational football. So Dave Tove, the chief special teams coordinator. Why? 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 Show me you can do it as an assistant coach outside of special teams, and then we'll talk. Off of the Chiefs, of course. Vic Fangio, Bears defensive coordinator. Now, this guy, the Bears defense coordinator, I would give him a shot. I would give him a shot simply because the Bears defense was good before they got Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack made the Bears defense outstanding, but before them, they were good. So I would think about that. Lincoln Riley's not budging. Jim Harbaugh's not going anywhere. Cliff Kingsbury, you can stay where you are. And pretty much that's it. Now, oh wait, I almost forgot about Mike McCarthy, the nepotism guy. Because if they hire him, that's pure nepotism. Let me tell you something about Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, of course, as you know, has had two Hall of Fame quarterbacks. He's only won one Super Bowl. And if you really look at excuse me, if you really look at the Packers offense, that's Aaron Rodgers making stuff happen outside of the pocket because the offensive play calling is so stale. The defenders already know what the hell the Packers are doing before they even snap the ball. They just jump the routes and everything. Aaron Rodgers has to run around like a crazy person and play sandlot football in order for them to really move the football. So I don't know. Plus, he got fired in the middle of the season. I'm not hiring a coach that got fired in the middle of the season. That says a lot. And John Harbaugh's not leaving the Ravens, so that is the end of that. So when you talk about Kitchens and Arians, I mean Kitchens and Williams, uh personally, if you think that Freddie Kitchens is a head coach in waiting because of the offensive game plans that he put together this year as a first time offensive coordinator, then what you do is you sign Greg Williams to a 3-year deal. Freddie Kitchens is already under contract. Okay. And if it doesn't work out with Greg Williams, because I believe it will work out for him next year, and I believe that it'll work out for him again probably the year after that, because he reminds me of Marty Schottenheimer. If anybody's been paying attention, of course, they lost 3 games to playoff teams. It's an incomplete team. That's why we're doing this whole review thing here. You still need pieces on offense and defense, mainly defense. You're not there yet. But you didn't just get straight up shellacked. I mean, of course, the Kansas City game, but you lost. You had 6 defensive starters out of the game when you lost to Kansas City, but you were with them till the middle of the third quarter. Of course, you came back against the Texans, but you just didn't have enough offensive weapons or defensive weapons to stop the run, or enough offensive weapons to outscore them. Your team is still green. You still need people. And of course, you saw what happened with the Ravens game. If you had the damn kicker, and do I dare talk about the fumble that was blown dead? Do I dare talk about that? Or should I talk about Landry's drop for a sure touchdown? 93 yards it would have been. So those are games that they should have won. Landry he was actually pretty lazy in yesterday's game against the Ravens. He was a bit lazy yesterday, trying to make one hand grabs and letting it bounce off his face mask and stuff. He was a bit lazy. That was a game they should have won. But at any rate, this team is incomplete. It's incomplete and it's still young. And I think young players need a father type figure telling them what to do, coaching them. So that's what I would do. After 3 years or 2 years, if it's not working out, then Freddie Kitchens with more seasoning in a bigger role as an offensive coordinator for another year or so, he will be ready, but not now. He's not ready now. Let's calm down. Let's pump the brakes and check the rear and side view mirrors. He's not ready yet. So that's where we are on that coaching carousel, and that's where I stand. And everything that John Dorsey was talking about as far as what he wanted in the head coach, it seemed like that's what Greg Williams was fulfilling the role. So we'll see. Everybody says if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's true. If it's not broke, why fix it? Now I understand you want to be great, but you're an incomplete team. You're a competent football team. You cut down the mistakes. You cut the penalties in half. You stop with the goofy play calling. You might have one or two per game, really two or three. I'll say about one or two a game. So most time they work. Sometimes they don't. But at least you're trying it. At least you're trying it with a structure, a solid structure, instead of just being out there like you in the sandlot, goofy holding calls and jumping off sides and all of that stuff and false starts. You're not doing that as much. So I can trust it. And speaking of upgrades, all right, so let's talk about it. Now, I have my free agent list here. Okay. So let's start with the offense. Now, I got my list here. Here's what's going on in free agency. You need to upgrade the offensive line. So you have particularly at the, well, really at the tackle spots. You're okay from guard, center, guard, but you need to upgrade your tackles. Now you have Trent Brown, who can play both positions, but is better at left tackle. He gave up no sacks, and he's that was his fourth year. His rookie contract is up. And also Daryl Williams at right tackle, who's on IR for 18 for this year, but no sacks allowed in his 4-year career. Now, neither of these guys have actually been full-time starters, but they're worth bringing in to take a look at to see what they can do. All right. Now, that's just in free agency. Okay. I'm liking where the receiving core is right now. So I'm not worried about that. Okay. Receiver, tight end, running back, we appear to be set. Our biggest problem is at the tackle spot. All right. So on the defensive side of the ball, you need some pass rushers. These are a few of the just it's only a couple. So excuse, excuse me. Excuse me. It's only a couple that you can go after. DeMarcus Lawrence out of Dallas. He finished the year with 14 sacks. And then you have Frank Clark, who also finished the year with 14 sacks. And you got Trey Flowers, who finished the year with 7.5 sacks. Any one of those three, but I would more so go after Frank Clark. But any one of those three will do. DeMarcus Lawrence is more than likely going to re-sign with Dallas if they don't franchise him. We'll see what happens. But I would go after one of those guys because you need somebody to pair with Myles Garrett because yeah, Emmanuel Agbaz is just not cutting it. This fool, what did he finish the season with? Emmanuel Agbaz finished the season. Oh Lord, he finished the season with 3 freaking sacks. And 24 solo tackles, 40 combined, 3 tackles for loss, and 8 quarterback hits. Meanwhile, Myles Garrett had 13.5 sacks with 35 solo, 44 combined tackles, 12 tackles for loss. Oh, by the way, Emmanuel Ogbah only had 3 tackles for loss and 29 quarterback hits. That's disgusting for a defensive end. All right, so outside linebacker, you have a free agent. You have Dee Ford, who has 13 sacks and 7 forced fumbles. That's what he finished the season with. Now, Jadeveon Clowney is also a free agent, but come on, you ain't getting him. The Texans are going to re-sign him. At cornerback, because as you know, T.J. Carey was a pass interference machine. All right, you have Ronald Darby. You can get him for depth, and you can cut T.J. Carey because T.J. Carey had 10 penalties. Ronald Darby did not. He actually had very few penalties. So there you are as far as free agency, as far as on that section, and of course defensive tackle. Now the Browns, Jesus, the Browns, they need a run stuffing defensive tackle because Coley was not cutting it. Coley sucked. Coley sucked very bad. Let's see here. You look at Coley's tackles for loss. Okay, he had 39 combined tackles, 17 solo, 22 assists, 4 tackles for loss, and 1 quarterback hit. That is horrible. And I saw him in games, especially the Texans game, falling at the heels of the running back and the quarterback. And I'm like, this dude is slow. He sucks. He got to go. He got to go. Flat out. So you have Grady Jarrett, who's got 8 tackles for loss, and Sheldon Richardson, who's got 6 tackles for loss. they can replace Coley and work in a rotation with whoever you draft. Now, when it comes to the draft, now, since we speaking about the draft, the Browns, of course, they have 11 picks. You have, and they're picking 17th now. You have one in the first, one in the first, one in the second, two in the third, one in the fourth, three in the fifth, one in the sixth, and two in the seventh. All right, so that's 11 picks. Now, personally, I think the first thing they need to go after is a rusher. Okay, now these players here, those of you who have draft boards and everything, you're going from the top to the bottom, the first picks all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to go by who's in reach. All right. Now, with a high second and a high third, in a high second, you can get Clelin Ferrell out of Clemson. In 3 years, he's got 49 tackles for loss and 27 sacks in his 3 year career out of Clemson. And of course, what's listed as a third round pick, you have Jachai Polite from Florida, who in 3 years he has 28 tackles for loss and 15 sacks. You've got to do something. Personally, I like Ferrell because he seems like he can get to the passer. So there you go. All right. So with your second pick, I would definitely go after a run stuff and defensive tackle. So you have listed in the first round, but he might fall, is Quentin Williams out of Alabama. So in 2 years, he's got 24.5 tackles for loss and 10 sacks. Okay, that's a long shot trying to get him if he falls. But that's a long. If you go with defensive tackle first and then try to get your pass rusher Farrell in the second round, then that's what you can do. uh, of course, listening as another second round talent is Ed Oliver, who out of Houston, and in 3 years he's got 53 tackles for loss and only three sacks, but he seems like a good solid run stuffer. Of course, in the third round, you've got Jeffrey Simmons out of Mississippi State, who has 30.5 tackles for loss and 6 sacks. All right. Now, if you really want to reach, these are guys who are within the first and second rounds. These are guys who are available in the first, second rounds. You've got Draymond Jones out of OSU, who last year he's got 40 tackles, 13 for loss, 8.5 sacks. Yeah, it's possible, but it depends on what they want to do first. Either they want to go defensive tackle or pass rusher. All right. So after that, you have Christian Wilkins out of Clemson, who's got 45 tackles, 13.5 for loss with 5 sacks. You've got Dexter Lawrence out of Clemson, who's got 37 tackles, 7.5 for loss and 1.5 sacks. And then you have Jerry Tillery out of Notre Dame, who's got 30 tackles, 10.5 for loss and 8 sacks. Now, in the second and third rounds, as far as second, third rounders, you have Isaiah Buggs out of Alabama with 41 tackles, 12.5 for loss and 9.5 sacks. And Gerald Willis out of Miami, who's got 59 tackles, 18 for loss, and 4 sacks, but he's got off the field issues. So, yeah, you're taking a risk with that. Within the third and fifth rounds, okay, you've got Daniel Wise out of Kansas, who's got, this is probably for backup to add depth. You've got 34 tackles for him, for Daniel Wise out of Kansas, 12.5 for loss and 5 sacks. And then you have Ricky Walker out of Virginia Tech, who's got 48 tackles, 10 for loss, 2 sacks. So that's if you want to go that route. That's who's available. Now, with offensive tackles, if you want to draft one, okay, between first, second round, if depending on where they want to go now, you have Jonah Williams, right tackle out of Alabama. Out of second, third rounder, you've got Dalton Renzer out of Kansas State. He's a right tackle. Between second and fourth rounder, you've got Andre Diller, the left tackle out of Washington State. Third and fourth rounder, Isaiah Prince, who's a right tackle out of Ohio State, who needs a little work, they say. third and fifth round. These are third and fifth rounders, these next three guys. You've got Titus Howard, who can play any tackle position out of Alabama State. Dennis Daly, who also can play any tackle position out of South Carolina. And then you got Caleb McGarry, who's a right tackle out of Washington. Now, you can solve your tackle problems there. If if you can sit these guys on the bench, they can be backups or they can be starters. Now, as far as right tackle goes, the Browns right tackle Bennett or Barrett, he came along right after Hugh Jackson got fired. Suddenly they solidified, they got him a little help, and the Browns sacks went down dramatically. I think it was week 15 or 16, they showed the stat where they showed quarterback hits. Baker Mayfield was only hit 9 times ever since Hugh Jackson was fired. All the other quarterbacks, the next ranked quarterback that has been hit had been hit 30 times. So the offensive line solidified. But if you want to upgrade or add depth, there you go. Okay. Now, on defense, because the Browns defense was a huge weakness this year. I know people want to give Greg Williams crap because they gave up a lot of yards and whatnot, but do understand it's an incomplete team. That's why we're going through this. This is exactly why we're going through this. You need help at the linebacker positions, inside and out, and also a little bit in the secondary. So let's deal with the outside linebackers because Christian Kirksey, when he went down, all right, when he went down, Jannard Avery stepped up. All right, Jannard Avery stepped up big time because he wound up getting 4.5 sacks, 39 combined tackles, 29 solo, 10 assists, 5 for loss, and 14 quarterback hits. Now, just so you know, Jannard Avery ranked third in the Browns this season in 9 games. Okay, he played in all 16, but he started 5. So let me take that back. Let's do it with the start. He started 5 in 5 games, 14 quarterback hits. Okay, 5 tackles for loss, 10 assists. That's not bad. The next person who had the most hits on the quarterback was Ogunjobi with 15, and then Myles Garrett with 29. So he was third in quarterback hits. And the next person below him was Emmanuel Ogbah with 8. So Jannard Avery is showing that he can play. So Jamie Collins was below Emmanuel Ogbah with 8 quarterback hits. Now, when it comes for tackles for loss, Jamie Collins led the team with 13, then Garrett with 12, Ogunjobi with 10, then of course Avery with 5. So, of course, as we know, Jamie Collins appeared to take plays off and was playing out of position a lot. Now, he led the team with a combined 104 tackles, Joe Schobert with 103, and then Randall with 84. Okay. The next defensive lineman that came down to make the most hits, combined tackles, was Larry Ogunjobi. All right. So also Jamie Collins led the team with 73 solo tackles, with Demarius Randall with 72, Kerry with 58 because they threw at him a lot, and then Joe Schobert with 57. Okay. Oh my goodness. This is just ridiculous. At any rate, I'm just looking at these stats like, man, like this defense needs a lot of help. Um, but the problem with Jamie Collins is that he couldn't get off the ball. He couldn't get off the ball. Just like with Joe Schobert, okay, because Joe Schobert is all the way back down here as far as tackle for loss with 6 quarterback hits. That's horrible, especially when you logged in combined 103 tackles, 57 solo. But as we saw, he's slow. But we'll get to the middle linebacker. But you definitely need depth on this team at outside linebacker. Matter of fact, you can probably get some starters. So let's go back to the draft board that I have here. So outside linebackers, these are all guys that I'm about to read now that can be picked between the second and third rounds, okay? And these are single season, these 2018 college stats that I'm going to read off. All right, so you have Brian Burns out of Florida State, who's got 52 tackles, 15.5 for loss with 10 sacks. Jalen Ferguson out of Louisiana Tech, 59 tackles, 25.5 tackles for loss. Jeez whiz. Where was he for the Browns? With 15 sacks. You have DeAndre Walker out of Georgia with 45 tackles, 11 for loss, 7.5 sacks. Let's see. O'Shane, this guy's name killed me. O'Shane Ex Eximenez out of Old Dominican with 58 tackles, 18.5 for loss, and 12 sacks. These guys are ballers. And then you have Chase Winovich out of Michigan with 61 tackles, 14.5 for loss, and 4 sacks. Now, these two guys here can be picked up in between the third and fifth rounds. You have Christian Miller out of Alabama with 35 tackles, 10.5 for loss, with 7.5 sacks, and Kennedy uh, Willekes out of Michigan State with 76 tackles, 20.5 for loss, with 8.5 sacks. These guys can be picked up. These guys can be picked up. Hopefully, these guys will be picked up in the draft. We'll see. All right, so with middle linebackers. Now, do understand with the Browns middle linebacker, if you're running a 4-3 defense, which I hope they continue to do, you're going to need linebackers that can not only stop the run, that are instinctual, that can get in the backfield, and that can also cover the tight ends and the running backs coming out of the backfield. Because that's Schobert's biggest weakness. He can't cover. He sucks at covering and he sucks at penetrating the line to make tackles for loss. All right. So here we go. These are linebackers, middle linebackers that fit the bill, and it's not many of them. These are guys that can be picked up between the second and fourth rounds. Okay, you have Jermaine Pratt out of NC State, who has 104 tackles, 10.5 for loss with stops. I'm sorry, with 6 sacks. He can stop the running and cover. That's beautiful. Then you have T.J. Edwards out of Wisconsin, who has 104 tackles, 10.5 for loss with 3 sacks. Then you have Devin Bush out of Michigan, who had 78 tackles, 9 for loss, 5 sacks. And then you had Tavion Coney out of Notre Dame with 107 tackles, 9 for loss, 3.5 sacks. Now, this guy, Joe Baki, he can be picked up between the third and fifth round. He's out of Michigan State. He's got 93 tackles, 8.5 for loss with 1 sack. And then picked up between the fifth and seventh round, you can get Khalil Hodge out of Buffalo, who racked up, excuse me, a whopping 139 tackles, 7.5 for loss, and 2.5 sacks. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad, especially a guy up in Buffalo. All right, now, of course, people are like, oh, that's Buffalo. But remember, Khalil Mack came out of Buffalo. So it's not like they're slouches up there. They know linebackers. Now, of course, you need another cornerback to pair with Ward. And also, like I said, you have to get rid of Carey because he is a penalty machine. So you have you can pick them up between these two guys. You can pick them up between the second and fourth round. Blake Brown out of Troy. He's 6 feet, 135 pounds. He's got 44 tackles with 5 breakups and 1 pick. This is stats that these guys have done this year. Also, you have Corey Ballantyne out of Washburn. He's 5'11", 182 pounds. He's got 50 tackles, 4 breakups, 3 picks. Now, these two guys can be picked up between the third and fourth round. You've got Jojuan Williams out of Vanderbilt, who's 6'3", 208 pounds. with 56 tackles, 10 breakups, 4 interceptions. And then you have Juan Thornhill out of Virginia, who's 6 feet, 212 pounds. He's got 56 tackles, 5 breakups, 4 picks. And then in the third and fifth round, you can probably pick up Nick Needham out of UTEP, who's 6 feet, 190 pounds. He's got 62 tackles, 9 breakups, and 1 interception. I mean, you can add them for depth. Maybe they can back up Terrence Mitchell. They can definitely back up Denzel Ward. And also, you already have Brian Body Calhoun. I would say resign him. There's a bunch of free agents that are out there, but it's only a couple that I would even want to deal with. Okay, so now, now we already know that the Browns kicking game sucks. We know it sucks. I don't even know why we're going to play like it doesn't suck. Okay, so there's nobody out there that's going to be on the waiver wire that I would even want to deal with. Not even Sebastian Janikowski. So you have to bring people in though. Now, if you're going to bring in a college kicker, the only one that I saw that was worth anything was Cole Tracy, who is a clutch kicker. He was 5 for 5 on kicks that helped them beat Georgia. He was 25 for 29. This was just last year. All right. And 54 is his longest, and he didn't miss any PATs. So I would say bring him in, see what he can do against some other kickers, and go from there. I wouldn't give him the job, but if anything, at least make somebody earn it. Now, when you talk about the Browns free agents, it's only 4 of them that I would keep. But here you go. So you've got Brian Body Calhoun, who's a restricted free agent. I would definitely re-sign him. Trayvon Coley, who is he is an exclusive rights free agent. Let him go. He can beat it. Philip Gaines, cornerback. He's a unrestricted free agent. He can go. Rashard Higgins, Hollywood Higgins. I would re-sign him. He's a restricted free agent. Greg Robinson, the left tackle. He's an unrestricted free agent. I would re-sign him. Jermaine Whitehead is a safety. He's an exclusive rights free agent. I don't care what you do with him. Ray Armstrong is an inside linebacker, unrestricted free agent. He can go. Rashard Perryman, he's an unrestricted free agent. Resign him. Tyrod Taylor, whose contract is void 5 days after the Super Bowl. I would let him go. Orson Charles, the tight end, he's a restricted free agent. You don't have a fullback, I would keep him. So I changed my mind. It's more than 4 or 5. Okay, EJ Gaines, cornerback, he can go. I didn't see anything coming out of him. Well, that's right. That's the penalty guy. Philip Gaines is the other one who didn't see. I didn't see any of him. Carl Davis, who's a defensive end, he's an unrestricted free agent. I didn't see anything out of him. Rod Streeter, wide receiver, unrestricted by Earl Watford, right guard, unrestricted free agent. If you want to keep him for depth, whatever. And then Justin Burris, cornerback, restricted free agent, he can go too. So there you have it. Now, overall, if you were to ask me what I think about this season, I think you took too long to fire Hugh Jackson. I understand what Jimmy Haslam was trying to do. He wanted to prove that they could have consistency, that they could win and everything, but I think he had to learn to trust Dorsey. So he let Dorsey blow Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley out, who was, of course, undermining him and doing whatever he wanted. Because Todd Haley, just like everybody else, thought that Hugh Jackson didn't deserve the job that he had because he didn't. He should have been fired. So Todd Haley was doing whatever. And if Todd Haley would just been a good old boy and did what he was told, then when Hugh Jackson got fired, he would be the head coach of the Browns. He would have been the interim coach of the Browns, but he didn't do that. So he got fired too, and that was pretty much the best thing that happened to the Browns. Because Todd Haley's a dick, and I don't think he's the right type of dick. I think Greg Williams is the right type of dick. but not Todd Haley. At any rate, it'll be interesting to see how this goes as far as the coaching search. I really hope it's not good old nepotism because that just sucks. Uh, if they do bring in somebody, I hope he's a stern disciplinarian. I hope they're able to retain Freddie Kitchens. Of course, you're not going to keep Greg Williams on as defensive coordinator, so you need to at least stick with somebody that's going to either keep the 4-3, but if you go to the 3-4, because you don't want to lose Schobert, then you need to bring in somebody that's at least able to make the plays that he's not able to make because he doesn't have the ability. So there you have it. And you also need a run stuff and defensive tackle. Um, Also, I'd like to point out how we got over on the Packers with the trade. Okay, they got a psychologically damaged Deshaun Kaiser. Thank you, Jackson, for doing that to him. For Demarius Randall, we got over on Jacksonville. We gave them a slow plotting back. All right, for a fifth round pick that they did nothing with. Uh, Oh, and we also got Cody Kessler for a seventh rounder. You actually traded a seventh round pick for Cody Shellshock Kessler. That's crazy. We also got over on New England, trading them a third rounder for Danny Shelton, who's garbage. Who's nothing but a fat, sloppy meathead. And we also got a fifth rounder for Josh. I just can't leave the substances alone. Gordon. We snookered the Patriots. We snookered the Jaguars. And we snookered the Packers. I appreciate that. I like that. So that's where we stand, everybody. That's where we stand with everything. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting till to see who we pick as head coach. Well, not we as in me, but we as in they, we the fans. Waiting to see who the Browns pick as head coach. Waiting to see who they pick up in free agency, and waiting to see what they do in the draft. And then we'll go from there. The season, all of this stuff can't happen soon enough. But thank God January 1st is tomorrow. And by the way, Happy New Year to everyone. Happy birthday to my father because today is his birthday. And man, damn it feels good to be a Browns fan now, doesn't it? All right. That's all I have for you all. Take care. Peace.